Hi, I'm Diane Dayton, backstage at Berks, catching up with artists scheduled at the 34th annual Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest. Find out about their shows and what's going on in their lives. And if you like this cast, please share it. Thanks for joining me. Well, here we are, Erich Cawalla, singer, saxophonist, recording artist, educator. You also have a sound studio and you also are a booking agent. Did I forget anything?
Well, I do taxes on the side too when I have to. When I'm
Okay.
compelled by people, will you do my taxes?
Well, there you go. A man of
Yes,
many, many talents. Well, I'm
yes.
so glad that you are back at Berks Jazz Fest. And I think you've been here many, many years, haven't you, Eric?
Yeah, I live in the area, and way back when I went to Governor Mifflin High School, I was in the first all-county jazz band, and that was 1996. And what an experience that was because I didn't know what I was doing, but I just decided to audition for it, and here I am.
Yeah.
20, how many years later is that? Almost 30 years later, and I'm still
Wow.
playing at the Jazz Fest.
Well, that's great. Well, you also have this wonderful Spiros Modern Music by Erich Cawalla, this sound
Yes.
studio. Tell us about that.
That is a really cool spot that my friend Spiro, who's a drummer in the area, and he built the studio, man, about 24 years ago, he bought it. And he teaches out of that, and we have lessons that various teachers teach there. But it used to be a music store. So when he bought that over there, it was pretty much the mecca of music in that he had a music store and he had the recording studio and he had the teaching studios. Now it's pretty much with everything with Amazon and people buying on Sweetwater and online. We don't do much with the music store, even though we do have a good amount of inventory left yet.
Okay.
But pretty much that's what we do over there is we teach. We have the recording studio for rehearsals for all types of different stuff and some rental properties there too.
Okay. Well, one of the shows, the musicians that are going to be there, Marcus Anderson, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Marcus Anderson, Kenny Lattimore are going to be there, and Julian Vaughn. I guess their performance is on the 12th.
Right.
But
That's
yeah, over the
Saturday.
years, it's pretty neat that John Ernesto hooked us up with, long before I even owned it, with rehearsals for some of the when the artists come to town, depending on what the show is. One thing about the Jazz Fest that happens is you see a lot of, maybe the one year's the music of Stevie Wonder, like when Gerald Veasley did that, and then they would get all the musicians together and that would be a sort of a rehearsal spot mecca for all these stars to come. So yeah, we've had lots of people there over the years, whether it was anybody, Eric Marienthal, you name it, Regina Bell, the big names, everybody in between.
Yeah.
And so we thank John Ernesto for that because that's a pretty cool feeling to have, Marcus Miller in the studio or Victor Wooten in the studio.
Oh,
It
yeah.
makes it's just a cool experience, and you try and do all you can for the artists when they're in town.
Absolutely. Well, this is the 34th annual Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest, and there's a lot going on in the community, even
Yes.
outside of the major venues, because there are what we call the affiliated partner events.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
know you're doing a few of those. Let's start
I
talking
am,
about
and
some of those.
it is. It's a great thing. If you go on the website, you just go under the affiliated events on there, and whether it's regional artists, national artists, I have a couple of those shows. We always perform with the Groove Masters at the Peanut Bar for the opening, but the Peanut Bar hosts a lot of them. I think they have four or five. I'll be there with my Uptown band on Wednesday night. Then we have a Groove Masters happy hour there the next Friday, and I think he has one or two other shows too. But yeah, if you just go on the berksjazzfest.com website, you can find all those affiliated events. And some of them, you really just, they may have a $5 cover. Some of them are free. You just walk in, you can have a drink and see some great jazz music, while you're in town.
Yeah, and it's just great to hang out. It really is. I
It
think,
is, isn't it?
yeah, it absolutely is. Like in between the shows or whatever,
It
going
is.
out maybe for dinner or something, it
Yep.
really is good. And I think Bunch of Funk is having their
Yes.
25th anniversary,
Yes,
right?
and it's funny that you say that. They're my buddies. They're a great regional actor. I've booked them many times featuring Reggie Brown, and they've actually been rehearsing the last couple weeks at the studio. In fact, they're rehearsing this Sunday, and I think it might be sold out, but they're doing it over at the Green Valley Country Club Chateau tent. But yeah, I used to watch Reggie, and I always said I want to be a band leader someday, and I want to be a in the front man. And Reggie was one of the guys that I'd watch. I still can't dance as well as him, but I never will. But yeah, check that out. That's a nice one. 25 years they've been around already. Man, my band, the Uptown Band's been around 19 years already. I can't believe
Wow,
it.
is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I always say when I started the band, I had hair and I didn't have to and I didn't have to wear compression socks.
Uh,
Shh,
okay, all right. We'll just let that one go.
tell anybody.
Well, there's one. performance, well, one of the many that I really enjoy going to. For me, it's kind of like the wrap up of the festival, almost like that swan song. It's that very last day on the third,
Oh
that
yes,
Sunday at,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. Go ahead and
That's
tell us
over.
more.
Yes, that's at the Grilled and Chill, and that's Earl's place in Reading, and it's a $15 cover. It's Benny Sims and Friends, and that we've been doing about the last 7 or 8 years. And there's just something about that show that it's people are just energized from the whole 10 days of the festival, and they're just energized, and anything sort of goes. I may end up on the bar playing my saxophone like Frankie Scott used to back in the day in Reading, and you just never
Yeah.
know what's going to happen over at the Grilled and Chill on the last day of the festival.
Yeah, that's great. I think that is that 4 o'clock it starts, I
Yeah,
think.
four to
Yeah.
seven. Yep, 4 to 7 at
Okay.
Grilled and Chill.
47.
Yep.
All right. You are also working on some new music. Tell us about that.
I am. A couple years ago, and thank you for asking, but a couple years ago, I always have had an old soul, and a couple years ago, took me about 5 or 6 years to make. I made a Great American Songbook album, which was in the style of Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Michael Bublé, all those type of artists. I love that type of music, and that had one original song on it, and then the rest were standards, Great American Songbook standards. So it takes me a while sometimes once I do something like that to get back into the frame of mind of, okay, it's time to start recording again. Like some people record, okay, I'm going to record this song and then 3 months later. But this year I am releasing two singles. The first one I'm going to release is something called Doo Woppin'. And I've always, like I said, had that old soul. I used to perform with Jimmy Beaumont and the Skyliners doing doo-wop songs. They're a big act from the 50s that had various hits out of Pittsburgh, and that's going to feature me on all five voices, and I also play sax on it. And that was just something sort of to do for fun for me that I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then after that, probably August, September, something like that, I'm going to be releasing a song to be determined. We haven't figured out the name yet, but it will be a contemporary jazz single. And Kurt Harmon from Pieces of a Dream, the drummer, and Benny Sims, my producer, they are co-producing the single, and so we'll get a radio promoter for it and see how it does.
That sounds great. You have a booking agency too, don't you?
I do, yes. One thing I try and do as a lot of musicians, they're musicians and that's what they do. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, like just to get out there and do different things. I went to Shippensburg University when I was 18, and I never thought that I was going to be a musician, but I ended up being a musician when Bobby Mercer hired me from the Bobby Mercer Roadshow, and here I am now, 20 some 30, almost
Yeah.
30 years later. And the booking agency is part of what I do. We book entertainment, all types of artists all over the country. Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn's grandkids are one of my groups that I book in various theaters. They do a tribute to their grandparents. We have Jeff Dunham booked on a show this year up at the Troy Fair with my partner Kathy Jenkins. But it can be anything as small as booking Diane Dayton with this koala bear right here, coming out singing, and
I was
I
just going
keep
to
him
ask
in.
you, where is the koala bear?
Yeah, well, I found these at Boscov's. When your last name's Koala and you see koala bears, I bought one for my whole family. I got one for my parents, I got one for my sister, and I got one for me. And you can probably hear my dog barking out there because this is technically a dog toy. And he's saying, "Who is he talking to in his office right now?"
Oh, that's
But
great.
yeah, so it's pretty cool though. I mean, I love. I'll tell you what I love about booking is just seeing the whole experience from start to finish. And
Right.
I bought the booking agency in 1983. It started off of Mr. Terry Gaiman, who had a country band back in the day called Shucks, and the Younger Brothers, which I'm sure you've heard of both those groups.
Yeah.
And he just came to me about 15 years ago. He said, "I'm going to sell you my agency one day," because he liked how I ran my band. And so here I am. I book about 200 other things a year
Wow.
besides myself, performing all over the place. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're going to be everywhere at Berks this
Thank
year
you.
again, too.
And I know you'll be everywhere
Oh,
too.
yeah. So I will run
You
into you.
always are.
I
Yep.
know.
You're
It's a
already
lot of
in that
fun.
Berks Jazz Fest,
Yeah.
moments right
Oh,
here.
I am. I am. It's great because this festival is like a big family coming together, isn't it, too, Eric?
It is. It is. You see a lot of whether it's Brian Bromberg or Rick Braun or Gerald Albright, who I know you just interviewed. What's neat about it for us regional artists is we get to hang out with these artists and talk to them. I remember having, before he passed away about 10 years ago, Mr. Bobby Caldwell, who we miss sincerely. He was performing with Andrew New and Dave Stahl over at the Sheraton, the old Sheraton. And just being able to talk to these guys, here's Bobby Caldwell. He had one of the biggest hits of all time. You're just having a drink with him at the bar there at the Sheraton and talking to him about music, talking to him about life, talking to him about marriage and divorce and all these things. And you become personal friends with these people, and then when they come to town, it's like, hey, Eric, how you doing? It
Yeah.
just makes you
Yeah.
feel good.
It does. It really
It's a
does.
family. It
Yeah.
really is.
So get there for, what we call the major shows, and then also
Yep.
check out the affiliated partner events too. It's all on
Yep.
berksjazzfest.com because there's so many wonderful things going on. There's never a dull moment, so you can just add it to
Never.
your agenda when you're
Yep.
there. Well, thank you so much for
Well,
taking
thank you.
time.
This goes so fast. Now I have to figure out what I'm going to do next.
Oh, I know. Well, the other thing too, you're probably going to have to teach because you're a teacher.
I do
Education is
teach yet.
important too, and
It is.
yeah,
Yep. I'm proud. I just had three of my younger gals here, two seventh graders and eighth grader, and they just all made junior county band, and that makes me feel good. I have them on a Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6:30, and it makes me feel good that all three made the band. And it just that's what it's all about. Because I remember when I was doing that stuff back in the day, it just makes
yeah,
you feel so good, and that's how you create these lifelong friendships and
absolutely.
lifelong type of traditions as well. That every year that I try and do with these kids.
And music truly does bring us all together.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah,
Especially in these tough times,
yeah,
it brings you together.
yeah, in a good, positive way. Well, thank you for taking
Yep.
time, and
Thank you, Diane.
I will see you there.
I'll be there.
10 exciting days of concerts, jams, and more. Tickets are on sale now. For the latest artist, venue, and scheduling info, and for tickets, visit berksjazzfest.com.